For the final speaker of this session, we have Rajendran Dhandapani, sir, Director of Zoho Corporation. Sir.
Good afternoon. So this will be a multimedia summary of everything that you have been hearing already since morning. 87% of my talk is about who we are, what we do, and why we do it. The last 13% is the takeaway, what we want you to do with your students. Get started. So these were statistics that were bandied about since morning about the unemployability and the state of affairs with the big gap between the kind of students we produce at colleges and the kind of expectations that companies seems to have. So 47% of graduates in India are unemployable, or 90% of graduates are unemployable based on Economic Times or NASCOM, however you want to take it. But there is one truth, one undeniable truth, which is 100% of us are unemployable when we are born. Something happens along the way. Let's take a quick look at what happens. So assume this is the sum total of all knowledge. And then our primary school teaches us something about everything. We learn language, we learn mathematics, we learn something about history, social studies, and so on, our mother tongue. And then we get into the lower classes like 4th standard, 5th standard, and something more we get. Then we get into the 10th to 12th standards where some kind of specialization starts happening. MPC, BPC, commerce, and so on. There's that small bump of specialization. You continue to learn everything else, but there is that small bump. And then comes the college, where you start identifying your particular course, your career choice, you dig deeper. All through the 3 years of college life, you dig deeper and deeper and learn more, and finally the project or the final semester hits you. And that's when you button down and start focusing on what research you can do. I'm zooming in on that part now. So that's your final semester. You want to discover something, you want to innovate on something, you want to start a new research program or perform an experiment and so on. And that small bump, that's when things break down, you get your big eureka moment, you learn that little bit. If you zoom in further, that's your mindset, the student's mindset. That's what it is. That's their degree. If you zoom in, this is their degree. With respect to where they are in that 8th semester time, it's all life. Wherever they see, whatever they realize, it's that big step they have taken. But let's not forget, for our sake, for their sake, let's not forget that when you zoom out, that is their degree with respect to the sum total of all knowledge. They are just a degree better. Let's not forget that. And what happened along the way? What happened along the time when they were super specializing on something? They lost out on linguistics, perhaps. If he is a mechanical engineering student, I'm sure he wouldn't have learned the comparative linguistics between how Tamil and Hindi share some common ancestry eons ago. Similarly, he wouldn't have focused on compiler design, which is probably a higher postgraduate course. He wouldn't have learned anything about it. Nor would he have remembered anything he learned about angular momentum. But you know what? The world's most famous mobile app, Angry Birds, you need to know angular momentum for it. The world's most popularly used mobile app, Google Translate, any traveler who goes from any country to anywhere else, he types in a phrase and finds out what is hello in Spanish. You need comparative linguistics for it. Programs start translating things now. It's not a human translating that. You need to know that. And so on. The point I'm trying to make here is irrelevant super specialization seems to be happening all the time around us. In other words, you could call it the curse of context-free knowledge. If I ask a kid what he is learning, he'll be able to tell me very well. But will he or she be able to tell us why he is learning it? What is the context that he or she is going to utilize it when he gets out into the outside world? So you focus on a large amount of irrelevant stuff. And you ignore some very relevant stuff because time is limited. The student's time as well as the faculty's time is limited. And you learn what's relevant without context. If only I had been told that this would have been useful today, I would have spent more time listening to that teacher. How often we all hear that in our lives. The curse of context-free knowledge. Moving on. Try answering this question. How many golf balls can fit into a Boeing 747 jumbo jet? Golf ball, jumbo jet. Try thinking through the process. What would your thought be to answer this question? Right answer, wrong answer, don't bother about it. But to get to the answer, what will your thought process be? Here is another. How many gas stations are there in Chennai or Manhattan? How many petrol bunks? You need a different kind of thought process. One more question. How would you move Mount Fuji? How would you move Mount Fuji? Assume you have been given the task. You have to move it. There is a railway line going or a tunnel being dug. You have to move it. How would you move it? What is the thought process involved in answering questions like this? Don't ask me why, but these are questions that come up regularly in interviews at Microsoft and Google. Google asks questions like these to throw a reverse swing at a student and find out how his thought process is. Yeah, interesting. You know what? There is even a book being written. How would you move Mount Fuji? A book is there, which categorizes hundreds of questions of how to crack that Microsoft interview. People have written books about it. But I beg to differ. This is not the way I want to ask a student and give him, put him on a hot seat and trouble him and see if he survives it and then take him into my company. Because we all know Howard Gardner, the 8 multiple intelligences person. So there are so many different kinds of smart. There is logic, there is mathematics, there is linguistics. That's what these guys are testing it on. But there is musical, there is people smart, there is personal smart, there is nature smart, there is picture smart, right? So if A.R. Rahman was given a test like this, he wouldn't pass it, but would he want to? So are we giving enough importance to that holistic, all-round development of the person? And if we are giving that importance, is that importance continuing into the engagement with the institution he's joining as a candidate, as an employee? It's almost like this cartoon. All the animals in the jungle are lined up and the guy says, I am going to give you a fair test. There's a fish, there's a monkey, there's an elephant. And the fair test is, I want to see who climbs a tree first. That's what is happening with all our students. So go back to that first slide, 80% are unemployable. Why? Because you judge them by those standards. Can all of them get this many marks in their 10th standard, 12th standard, college? Can all of them get this many credits by this many years? Is that the only benchmark we can measure them with? Think about that instead of looking at this as the biggest question facing us. Everybody is employable, is the point I want to make. We did a study. We took 2 random managers, and we are calling them Tom and Jerry here, but their real names are hidden. Their faces are hidden too. We did an evaluation over a period of 4 or 5 years. So one of them tests and tests and tests. He gives a first level interview, an aptitude test, a programming test, a project test, and then finally comes to a real face-to-face interview with 3 different people. By the time this guy gets the job, he's wondering, should I even continue in this company? And there is this other manager who goes by the gut feel, who looks at the guy, who works with him for an hour or so, who takes him out for a coffee break perhaps, a breakfast session perhaps, and then goes by the gut feel. Which one would you side for? That's not the question. But the question is, which one of these managers was able to produce better results? Which of these 2 managers were able to retain more of their people and get a better name in the organization for themselves, their product, and their team? Look at the results. 62% was this guy's success rate. Guess the other ones? 60. So that's when my CEO and a good friend thought perhaps all interviews are evil. It's wrong to one-dimensionally slot a person and rate him and label him based on his performance, her performance in some hot seat time, a couple of hours time. All exams are evil. There's a whole lot of problems with the curriculum, with the educational system. He looked at it that way. I am from Zoho. We offer a huge set of software for companies that want to run their business online. And we have software for document sharing, for mailing, for project management, for CRM, for customer support. We even proudly call ourselves perhaps the only complete business operating system in the cloud. We've been around for 19 years now. We are entering our 20th year, 3,600 people strong, 25 plus applications on the cloud, which work very well with each other, 15 million users across 120 countries in the world. And we are bootstrapped. We haven't taken any investment from outside, no VC funding. We earn the money that we put into it and earn more. That's how we have been doing it for the past 20 years. But that's not how we have been from year one. When we started, we had all the problems of every startup. Like people earlier before me told about how the Wipros and the TCSs and the Cognizants took away the day zero or day one dream jobs. We felt we had those same problems. But we just approached the problem differently with a different kind of solution. Because over time, when we looked at people's interaction, with how they performed at work, we realized when we polled them about it, that there was a lot of stuff that they learned at college which was useful, but a lot more that was not useful at all that they didn't learn at college. And it was all over the place. There was stuff they learned which wasn't useful, stuff that was useful which they hadn't learned, which they had learned, and so on. And similarly, achievers at work versus achievers at college. 9.8, 9.9 CGPA. This guy didn't know a shit about how to work in a team. Because he thought he was competing with that other guy. Instead, he had to collaborate and cooperate. So there he was. There were some good achievers at college who continued. But along the way, we realized there was no correlation at all between achievement at college and true achievement once they join a company, once they join a product team, a multicultural product team, like they were talking earlier in the morning. So they were all over the place again. I have a short video for you which kind of summarizes all the things that we have heard since morning. But because this is multimedia, it hits you in the head. This is 2007. Even the iPhone hasn't come into the world yet. But look at the messages this has for us. It's called Did You Know? By a guy called Carl Fish. The first speaker of the day was talking about exponential growth. This is what it is. This is the second most important point. So these were our takeaways. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't yet exist. Drone repair job in mechanical engineering irka, but we will need it. How to catch drones with drones? That's a new technology that's coming up. Could we have even imagined it? So using technologies that haven't been invented in order to solve problems we don't even know or problems yet. Take that into your mind. And the second learning was, for students starting a 4-year technical college degree, this means that half of what they learned in the first year is already outdated by their 3rd year of study. So these things kind of fell in place way back in the year 2004, and we came up with a poll. We asked all our employees at that time, hey, for your current role in the company, how relevant was your college education? We had around 1,500 employees at that time. We asked them, whatever you're doing, marketing, writing, whatever you were doing, so how relevant was it at that time? So I'm going to speed up. So these were the results. Only 15 to 20% of them really had to say that they really found it useful. The rest of them said time was a waste, I wasted my time and my dad's money, and so on. So we said, let's stop looking at computer engineering graduates. Let's stop looking at engineering graduates. Why? Let's stop looking at graduates. So let's go to 12th standard kids. Because we realized that degrees and grades and marks don't seem to have an equation with performance at work. So we went and started an experiment way back in the year 2004. We went to a school, we recruited some few kids, we had 2 faculty members in our own midst. We told them that we want to start something called Zoho University. We gave them 3 subjects, English, mathematics, and computer science. Computer science in the sense, programming knowledge that was very relevant to the industry. And we gave them a basic aptitude test. We selected them based on it. 6 students, 2 faculty, and 3 subjects. And these were the results. So I'm just giving you a short story of one person in my Zoho University bit. So this is this girl we recruited from a rural place near Chennai. This is the school photograph. The first time she is looking at a computer. We gave her a bilingual test. She didn't know English, so we gave her a Tamil test. We gave her counseling in terms of how to manage money, because we were giving her a 8,000 rupee stipend at that time already. And we taught her English, we taught her programming, we taught her some communication soft skills. Classes were theory as well as practical. And more importantly, the practical sessions also involved teaching the next batch of students, because we had overlapping years. It was an 18-month program. And 9 months later, the next batch would have come in, and these senior students started training them one-on-one, mentoring them. So that's Sohail, who has come here too. We give them into a team for the next 9 months. He or she is interned in the team. The person has lunch with them, goes to meetings with them, works on critical product development with them. He's actually embedded right inside the team. Counseling continues further. And finally, the product manager, if he or she is happy with the student, takes him or her right into the team as an employee. That's an 18-month package that we have been running for the past 11 years. 350 students have passed out of that Zoho University. It's not accredited to any regular university because we have some serious philosophical differences about it. You can meet me later if you want. I can tell you more about it. So we also have some fun along the way. So that's the curse of context-free knowledge going away, because we focus on contextual knowledge. We focus on mostly relevant stuff. We don't ignore the important stuff, and we learn what's relevant with context. So that's 10% of our workforce. And this is data that we picked up just 3 days ago from one of your colleges. I didn't want to mention the name. This is from one of your colleges. So we start with 950 students. taking the exams or tests or whatever, filling in the application. And then after our level 1 test and a level 2 test and a level 3 test, we end up taking just 6 people. So we asked ourselves the question again, what? Is quality missing? Are we too strict? Don't we want to take people? Don't we have enough openings? All of those are wrong. We have a lot of openings. We don't want to unnecessarily go sightseeing around colleges if we are not interested in taking your people. Quality does exist, but what was going wrong? And not just this college. 40 colleges around Tamil Nadu that we were going to, the story was the same. So we started wondering what could be wrong, and we learned that this was what was happening. Less than a minute per person. We were spending 1,000 students were being processed in a day and a half. How could it be possible that we could really spot that right talent? And we were filtering for all the wrong reasons, for scores and marks and so on. So we said, let's extend that interview process. We will do it over 15 days or 21 days. We will have an internship center, or rather an incubation center in our own office. Because interviews produce snapshots. If I tell you that one of these is a serial killer and the other is a computer scientist, who would you say is who? The one on the left is a serial killer. He has killed 19 people way back in the 90s. He is a British doctor. The one on the right is Eric Stallman. If we are all using Linux, it's because of that guy. But if this guy comes for an interview, how would you rate him? How would you evaluate him? You look at him up and down like that, right? So they produce snapshots of people. They are wrong. And the really good people know how to game your system. How to appear for Google interviews, Google panni parunga. You will know. So systems are wrong, interviews are evil. There is a lot of problem out there. So we thought we'll extend the interview process into 15 days. So we said we'll mentor and monitor. We will have lectures and training. And there won't be any expectation about what computer science knowledge they'll need to have. I won't say come with programming knowledge. I'll only focus on how much learnability you're able to demonstrate in those 21 days. If you come in with no knowledge and leave with some experience of HTML, you're good. If you come in with some knowledge and leave with not much more, you're not as good. So the difference was what we were focusing on. It's been running, so around 3% of our workforce is that. So that's good news, lots of good people out there. But the bad news is there's no systematic way to find it. All day, that's what we have been focusing on. 100 minus 10 minus 3 is 87. 87% of my company's people are still from you all. So I just want to leave behind 5 things that I want you all to focus on for your students. The workplace has changed. This is not IBM anymore. This is IBM. Nothing is planned. Everything is opportune. Companies look like this more and more. CEOs sit in places like these. No education is really prerequisite. Everything is experienced and learned. And people are moving to work from home, work from different cultures, and so on. So I want to leave these 5 things behind. Learn to collaborate. Teach your students to work together in interesting, innovative ways instead of compete. And there is this left brain, right brain thing. Don't be proud you're an engineer, you don't know how to draw. Don't be proud that you're an artist, that you don't know how to do mathematics. Focus on that cutting edge between art, left brain, and a mathematical right brain thinking. Learn to communicate, extremely important skill. We have heard about this all day. Go social, and not just Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. There are social networks for programmers, social networks for writers. Focus on those. Get online. Make mistakes. Make mistakes. And this is my most favorite and important point. Ask them to scratch their personal itch. If one of them has a handicapped dad who can't see an iPad icon much all that easily, and he wants to invent a spectacle that will zoom in on that lens, ask him to build it. Right? So ask them to scratch a personal itch. Unakku arikano, adukku nee sorinjukano. Have you done anything like that? Have you scratched any personal itch? Is a favorite question of mine when it comes to interviewing people. And instead of stopping there, I went to all my alumni. You are children who work with my company. I did some short interviews with them and I asked them, hey, any piece of advice to those aspiring to join companies like ours? Last 2 slides. So this is what they said. Drill down to the bottom of everything. Learn to learn on the go. That's the only thing that's going to matter. இதெல்லாம் அவங்க வாயிலேந்து வருது. This is not gyan from me or some other managers. These are students that you passed out just a couple of years ago. I did a dipstick and this is their messages to you. Experience failure. Try building something and fail in that endeavor. Develop visualizing skills. Learn to cooperate with people, not just compete. That's the real world. அப்படின்னு சொல்றார் ஒருத்தர். Try to do more than one project. They are the only ones that help. Never, never, never judge your potential by your score. Marks won't help you at all. It's all about how you can apply what you know. Chuck academic commitments and focus on real world applications. Be strong in your area of interest. Experience failure. Learn to take up even the simplest tasks seriously. So I'll stop with that. Thank you.